Welcome to This Explainer. So, you know how everyone obsesses over the final scorelines and the stadium designs for the 2026 World Cup? Well, we're looking past all that today. The 2026 tournament is absolutely massive. We're talking 48 teams and 1,248 players hitting the pitch. But if you look past the flags waving in the stands and really dig into the underlying data, there's a totally hidden story waiting to be uncovered. We're going to map out exactly where the players of the world's biggest sporting event actually come from.
So let's kick things off with a bit of a mystery. If I asked you right now, out of every nation on Earth, which country produced the absolute most players for the 2026 World Cup, what would you guess? You'd probably think of whoever lifts the trophy, right? Or maybe one of the historic giants of the sport. But we need to completely flip our perspective here. For a second, stop looking at the national team jerseys. Instead, let's look at the actual origins, the literal birthplaces of those 1,248 players out there on the grass. Who's truly supplying this tournament?
When you plot out these player birthplaces, it completely transforms the World Cup. It goes from being just a simple athletic contest into this beautifully complex global web. You see those glowing lines arching across the oceans and continents toward the host nations? They reveal a much deeper reality. This isn't just a map of sports, it's a map of human migration. It's about globalized development systems, family heritage, and this constantly evolving global football identity. It really just shows us how deeply interconnected the modern game actually is.
Section 1. France's massive football factory. If we shift the spotlight squarely onto one specific European nation that literally stands head and shoulders above the rest when it comes to producing world-class talent, we find France. And the number we're looking at here is absolutely staggering: 99. Out of the roughly 1,200 players at the entire 2026 World Cup, an incredible 98 to 99 of them were born in France. Just think about the sheer scale of that for a second. That is an unbelievable concentration of talent coming from within the borders of just one single country.
I mean, France is just towering over the pack here. With 99 players, they are easily outpacing established, world-renowned football development giants. The Netherlands sits well behind at 67, England's at 49, and Germany's at 48. Spain, Belgium, Sweden, they're even further down the list. The takeaway here is crystal clear. France has become way more than just a strong national competitor. They are, essentially, the primary production base for the entire global game.
Section 2. The French football diaspora.
Now, here is the massive twist in our data, and honestly, it's what makes this whole explainer so captivating. We just established that nearly 100 players were born in France, right? But the reality is, most of those players are not actually wearing the blue shirt of the French national team. Basically, a single French football ecosystem acts as this incredibly potent production base, supplying top-tier talent that branches out to fill the rosters of countless other countries. It really is evidence of how deeply one single country's academy system has influenced teams all over the world.
France's football footprint extends far, far beyond its borders. We're seeing players born in France traveling to represent nations linked to their family roots, their ancestry, their dual citizenship, or maybe just their personal sense of belonging. The academies in Paris, Lyon, and Marseille, they are effectively training the stars for national teams on entirely different continents.
The sheer global scale of this French football diaspora is just phenomenal. We're seeing French-born players representing Algeria and DR Congo in Africa, Haiti in the Caribbean, Qatar in Asia, and even neighboring rivals like Spain over in Europe. And hey, this is just a snapshot. The data also points to nations like Senegal, Côte d'Ivoire, Tunisia, Morocco, and Ghana. The breadth of this distribution is unmatched. It just goes to show that French talent is literally everywhere.
Section 3. Other top birthplace suppliers.
To truly understand the global picture, though, we need to zoom out impartially and look at the rest of the world's talent pipelines, just to see what unique strategies they're using to supply the tournament. Because the crucial point here is that not all development systems work the same way. Take the Netherlands. They produce 67 players, but that number is heavily boosted by Dutch-born players representing diaspora-linked squads, particularly Curaçao. It's a very heritage-driven pipeline. Contrast that with England, which produced 49 players. England's numbers are largely driven by their incredibly strong, localized domestic academies, and by supplying UK heritage teams like Wales, Scotland, or Ireland-linked squads. Two very different structural paths to supplying the global stage.
Moving over to South America, countries like Argentina with 30 players and Brazil and Colombia with 26-plus players, well, they take an entirely different path. They rely on massively deep domestic talent pools to field what are almost exclusively fully homegrown squads.
They aren't relying heavily on a global diaspora to field their own teams, and they aren't acting as the primary factory for dozens of other nations the way France is. Their strength is intensely localized.
But here's a surprising fact that really highlights the invisible threads of the tournament. The Nigerian national team didn't even qualify for the 2026 World Cup. But get this, the data shows about 15 to 16 players of Nigerian heritage are present across other squads, including England, Germany, Switzerland, and the United States. No way, right? It perfectly proves how a nation's vibrant football identity can remain highly visible and highly impactful on the world stage entirely through its diaspora.
Section 4. The Layered Modern Player.
So far, we've looked at all this incredible macro data. You know, the maps, the charts, the high-level trends of global talent supply. Now, let's bring this all back down to the intimate human level. The most crucial point to take away from this explainer is the concept of layered identity. In the modern game, a player's identity is no longer a simple matter of where they happen to live right now. It is a highly complex intersection. A single player's journey is simultaneously shaped by the soil they were born on, the rich family heritage they carry, the passports they hold, and the deeply personal choice of which national team they ultimately decide to represent. All of these vectors can point in entirely different directions.
Think about it. A player's physical roots, their birthplace on the map, their passport, their family tree extending deep into the ground, they might point in one direction. But on the flip side, that same player steps onto the pitch wearing a jersey and standing under a flag that might be a whole continent away from where those roots first started growing. This is the reality for hundreds of players at the World Cup. Their personal history and their professional stage are uniquely, beautifully layered.
Which leaves us with this final thought to ponder. Armed with this incredible data from the birthplace supplier rankings, the next time you tune in to watch the World Cup, how are you going to see the game? Will you just see a simple clash of two national flags on a screen, or will you see what's truly there? A beautifully complex, living map of global migration, heritage, and human connection running all across the pitch. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep exploring the hidden stories all around you.
If this message opened your mind, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe to MasterSense by Faraday, hit the like button, and share this video with someone who needs wisdom, clarity, and inspiration today. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss our next powerful lesson. Remember, knowledge becomes power only when you act on it. See you in the next video.
Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're breaking down exactly how France engineered an absolute juggernaut of a football talent pipeline. And it's a pipeline that doesn't just feed their own national team, it literally feeds the entire globe. If you've tuned into a major tournament recently, you've definitely witnessed this ultimate talent factory in action, even if you didn't quite realize it at the time. We're going to look closely at the data and the structures that have turned this one nation into an unparalleled athletic engine.
To kick things off, I really want you to ask yourself one central question. Does geography still define a national team? Keep that in the back of your mind, because as we'll see, the traditional borders of international sports are being completely redrawn right before our very eyes. It's a fascinating shift, and it challenges pretty much everything we thought we knew about international competition.
Section 1. The French Talent Machine.
Right, let's dive into this. France's incredible success, it is definitely no accident. It's the result of a highly efficient development pathway that moves gifted players straight from their local pitches directly into elite professional environments. French clubs and the French Football Federation didn't just cross their fingers and hope for talent to magically appear. They engineered a deliberate, highly monitored system. They recognized early on that raw talent is really only half the battle. The other half is making absolutely sure that talent actually makes it to a professional pitch.
To make that a reality, they built a precise, relentless four-step pipeline. Step 1 begins with hyper-competitive grassroots football. The absolute best players from there are funneled into Step 2, regional talent centers. These centers then feed directly into Step 3, professional academies. And the whole thing is tied together by Step 4, a sprawling early identification scouting network that actively watches over everything. This ensures that a gifted young player in France is identified, supported, and challenged almost from the exact moment they first touch a football.
Section 2. The Paris Epicenter.
Okay, get this. Analysis of the 2026 World Cup revealed an absolutely staggering statistic. More than 50 tournament players were born in Paris or its surrounding suburbs. Let that number sink in for a second. Over 50 elite, world-class players participating in the biggest sporting event on the planet, all tracing their origins back to a single urban region. There are very, very few places on Earth that produce such an intense, awe-inspiring concentration of athletic brilliance.
So what's really fascinating about this concentrated talent is how it comes from a perfect storm. On one side, you have densely populated, culturally diverse neighborhoods where kids are playing raw, hyper-competitive urban street football. It breeds incredible resilience and mind-blowing technical skill. On the other side, you have immediate, direct access to those top-tier organized academy structures we just talked about, with professional scouts actively watching these local street games. It is, without a doubt, the ultimate proving ground.
Section 3. The diaspora effect. Because of migration and deep historical ties, many of these elite players possess a really layered identity. They end up opting to play for different countries through a phenomenon known as the diaspora effect. That's when athletes born and trained in one country represent another nation based on family heritage, citizenship, or ancestral ties. Players who are fully trained within the French system often have deep roots connecting them to other nations, and when it comes time to choose a national team, well, they have a major decision to make.
It really is a balancing act. You have a French birthplace on one hand and deep African or Caribbean ancestral heritage on the other. It's a deeply personal choice. The system in France develops the player, for sure, but citizenship rules, family memory, and ancestral pride mean that a huge number of these athletes ultimately wear another nation's colors on the global stage.
Section 4. Redefining football nationality.
The 2026 World Cup essentially proved that nationality in modern football is no longer just about your birthplace. It's a pretty sharp contrast from how things used to be. The old standard was super simple. You play for the country where you were physically born. But the new reality, it is vastly more complex. It's a layered identity reflecting exactly where you were born, your legal eligibility, where you actually trained, and ultimately, your emotional belonging.
So the crucial takeaway here is that today's elite player sits at the exact center of 4 overlapping circles: birthplace, training, nationality, and belonging. For a ton of the players coming out of the French system, these 4 circles do not simply point to one single country. They're navigating a modern, layered identity that traditional national football structures simply weren't originally designed to handle.
Section 5. Global player movement.
Thanks to these historic and migration links, the French development system is quite literally acting as a hub, directly providing elite talent for numerous other national teams. The data shows us that nations like Algeria, Senegal, Morocco, Tunisia, Côte d'Ivoire, Haiti, and DR Congo have all fielded exceptionally strong teams that were heavily bolstered by players born, raised, and trained in France. In a lot of ways, the French talent machine is basically subsidizing the squads of other nations.
When you track the movement of players across the globe, it becomes super clear that the geography of football talent completely bypasses traditional borders now. We are living in a world where a country's success in a major tournament might now rely just as much on youth academies halfway across the globe as it does on their own domestic programs.
Ultimately, France's status as a top birthplace carries a really fascinating double meaning. Internally, yeah, they build their own legendary tournament-winning squads, Les Bleus. But externally, they are simultaneously strengthening their football neighbors, global partners, and diaspora-linked rivals. It is literally one single development system feeding multiple flags.
I'm going to leave you with this provocative thought to chew on the next time you watch a major international tournament. In a world shaped by migration and global academies, how homegrown is your favorite national team really? The data from France shows us that the beautiful game is now more interconnected than ever before. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and definitely keep an eye out for those complex, overlapping identities the next time the players take the pitch.
If this message opened your mind, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe to MasterSense by Faraday, hit the like button, and share this video with someone who needs wisdom, clarity, and inspiration today. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss our next powerful lesson. Remember, knowledge becomes power only when you act on it. See you in the next video.
Welcome to this explainer. Look, today we're skipping the basic stuff and jumping straight into one of the absolute wildest hidden realities of modern sports. If you think you completely understand how national identity works when you're watching the 2026 World Cup, you might want to reconsider. We usually just assume it's all about borders and passports, right? Well, those old rules, they literally don't apply anymore. Instead, we're going to unpack this incredible, unseen web of academies, migration, and family ties that has completely reshaped the tournament as we know it. So let's just dive right in with a single jaw-dropping number, 99. Take a second and really think about that. What could this massive metric possibly represent on the biggest stage in global football? I promise you, it's not the number of goals scored by a powerhouse team, and it's definitely not some metric about possession or passing accuracy. It represents the staggering number of French-born players competing in the tournament. Yep, public reporting placed the total at roughly 98 to 99 players born in France who actually took the pitch. Just let that sink in for a second. We're talking about almost 4 full World Cup squads that could be fielded exclusively by guys born within the borders of one single European nation. This completely shatters the traditional idea of a national team only drawing from its local population. It proves that France isn't just a fierce competitor fielding its own squad. It's the ultimate global production hub for elite football talent, pumping out world-class athletes at a scale we've honestly never really conceptualized before.
Section 1. The French Football Factory, representing the diaspora.
So here's where it gets really fascinating. We need to look at how France's influence in the sport extends way, way beyond the guys actually selected to play for Les Bleus. When you look closely at the roster data, France sits right at the absolute center, but then it branches out in these incredible ways. We're talking about dozens of world-class athletes who share a birthplace, who grew up in the exact same neighborhoods and academy systems, but who ultimately wear entirely different colors on the world stage. It's this massive, globally distributed talent pool that completely redefines what it means to export sporting excellence. Just look at the sheer geographical scale of this French diaspora. It's crazy. We're talking about French-born players forming the absolute backbone of teams all over the world. You've got Riyad Mahrez and Amine Gouiri representing Algeria, and Amin Harit from Morocco up in North Africa. You've got Jean-Rickner Bellegarde representing Haiti in the Caribbean. And then the talent just flows downward into sub-Saharan Africa across DR Congo, Senegal, Côte d'Ivoire, Cape Verde, and Ghana. The influence even stretches over to Qatar in the Middle East and neighboring Spain. A single European nation is effectively supplying world-class talent to multiple continents all at once. It's the hidden engine for international football.
Section 2. Clubs as identity bridges, the professional stations.
Now, this massive migration of talent, it doesn't just happen by magic. We have to zoom in on the professional clubs, the vital, everyday infrastructure that facilitates this incredible journey from a local birthplace to a global stage. The source data actually reorganizes these players by their professional clubs, which adds some absolutely essential context. Think about it like this. Major clubs serve as crucial stations, bridging the gap between a player's French roots and their ultimate World Cup selection for a totally different country. You've got these athletes stationed at AC Milan, Al Hilal, Paris Saint-Germain, and Bayern Munich. For us, watching at home, club football is essentially the refining process for global national teams. These massive institutions are polishing the raw talent before it disperses to the World Cup.
It's honestly brilliant and maybe a little absurd how a single professional environment connects all these different international identities. Take Marseille, for example. You have Amine Gouiri playing for Algeria and Amine Harit playing for Morocco. Both are French-born, and both are operating within the exact same elite French club system. They could literally be training together on a random Tuesday, yet weeks later they're stepping onto the World Cup pitch under completely different flags. Or look at Manchester City, linking French-born talent like Ryan Ant-Nouri for Algeria alongside other massive international stars. The same elite player pool is moving through these specific club environments, training side by side every day, only to return to the international stage as geopolitical rivals.
Section 3. The Nigerian contrast. Heritage over birthplace. All right, to really grasp this hidden global architecture, we've got to look at a brilliant counter-narrative involving a team that didn't even qualify for the 2026 tournament, the Super Eagles of Nigeria. The contrast here is super important. France acts as the dominant physical birthplace supplier, and obviously their own national team is fiercely present and competing. But Nigeria represents something entirely different. Their national team was totally absent from the tournament, yet they still powerfully supplied the World Cup through deep-rooted heritage identity rather than just acting as a physical birthplace. They essentially exported their sporting DNA. And that brings us to our next revealing number, 16. Even without the Super Eagles actually qualifying for the tournament, roughly 16 players of Nigerian heritage stepped onto the pitch across other national squads. Think about what that actually means for a fan base. You tune into the World Cup, and your country's flag might not be flying over the stadium, your anthem isn't playing, but your footballing DNA, your cultural heritage, is still out there fiercely competing at the absolute highest level of the sport. It's a completely different, deeply personal way to experience international sports. It's exactly like our source points out so perfectly. Nigeria showed how a football identity can remain visible through heritage, even when the national team is absent. These players carried their Nigerian identity while representing countries like England, Germany, the United States, or Canada. It is a prime, beautiful example of inherited football identity. It proves how diaspora representation ensures a nation's sporting heartbeat just continues to pulse through the tournament, regardless of whether they officially made the cut. The culture completely transcends the borders.
Section 4. Conclusion. Football's hidden global architecture.
Let's zoom all the way out for a second to synthesize what these massive stats and totally contrasting stories actually mean for our fundamental understanding of modern sports. What this means for you as a fan is that the rules of the game off the pitch have fundamentally changed. Modern football is no longer strictly defined by just a passport or where you were born or the geographic borders drawn on a map. The new defining factors are right in front of us. Global migration, highly engineered elite academy systems, powerful family heritage, complex dual identities, and a really deep sense of personal belonging. This is the hidden architecture of world football today. It's this intricate, beautiful web of families, cities, histories, and personal choices that truly dictate who wears what shirt. Those old boundaries drawn on a map, they just don't apply to the pitch anymore. We've seen how France acts as a literal physical factory supplying the world, and how Nigerian heritage permeates the tournament purely through bloodlines and identity. The reality is infinitely more complex and honestly way more fascinating than a standard broadcast will ever tell you. So I'll leave you with this provocative question to take away. In a sport that has been completely reshaped by global migration lines, elite academies, and deeply personal family choices, what does a national team truly even mean anymore?
If this message opened your mind, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe to MasterSense by Faraday, hit the like button, and share this video with someone who needs wisdom, clarity, and inspiration today. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss our next powerful lesson. Remember, knowledge becomes power only when you act on it. See you in the next video.